The regular session of the City Council of the City of Pleasanton, Texas will now come to order February 19, 2015. The time is 7:01 p.m. Item number 1 is the invocation, followed by the pledge. The invocation will be done by Pastor Rob Jeffries of Atascosa Christian Fellowship. Pastor, if you'll please come up to the podium.
Father God, we thank you for the privilege of serving you in this community. Lord Jesus, may you speak in our conversation. May your spirit drive us. May our passion for this community be evident. Lord, I pray you just keep senses calm, bring wise discussion, and guide us according to your good and perfect will for this community. We ask this in Jesus' name.
Amen. If you'll face the flag, hand over heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Item number 3 is the roll call. Ms. Israel.
Here.
Mr. Sines. Here. Mr. Best.
Here.
Mr. Garza.
Here.
Ms. Pacifica. Here. Mr. Gallegos.
Here.
All members are present. Item number 4 is the consent agenda. Consent agenda. Item A is approval of the minutes of the regular session of February 5th, 2015.
Mayor,
Mr. Gallegos.
I move to approve the minutes of the regular session of February the 5th, 2015.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda, which is the minutes of the regular session of February 5th, 2015. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed, the same sign. Consent agenda is approved. Item number 5, discussion action to direct city staff to bring an ordinance before the city council for a 20-year agreement with the Pleasanton Chamber of Commerce to hold an annual cowboy homecoming and turn and burn event at the Pleasanton City Park. Our facility activities director.
Mayor, Council,
Good evening.
you found a copy of the proposed ordinance that you're going to be going over to. Before we get started, there is one last minute change that I inserted into this at the request of the chamber. Under fees and deposits on section 3, item 1, we inserted after the city shall charge for the property. I inserted these fees apply only to those events that have been scheduled within the required time period. It's just a little clarification on that first line that they didn't want to get charged if they didn't have an event.
Okay.
So I mean, that's basically the only change to the document that you got.
Mayor, I move to approve the adoption of the ordinance setting the duration, terms, and fees for the events, Cowboy Homecoming and Turn and Burn, sponsored by the Pleasanton Chamber of Commerce, to be held at the Pleasanton City property, and also amending, replacing, and repealing all ordinances, agreements, and ordinances in conflict.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve adoption of an ordinance setting duration, terms, and fees for the events Cowboy Homecoming and Turn and Burn, sponsored by the Pleasanton Chamber of Commerce, to be held at Pleasanton City property, and also amending, replacing, and repealing all ordinances, agreements, and ordinances in conflict. Any discussion? Yes,
I
sir.
wanted to see, there are some members of the chamber here, and I wanted to see if they had anything to say.
Good.
Okay.
Other discussion? If none, will proceed to the vote. Those in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item number 6 is ordinances and resolutions. Item A is second reading and adoption of ordinance number 15-1130, declaring new voting districts as a result of recent annexations. And ordinance number 15-1130 is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Pleasant, Texas, adopting district boundaries, repealing ordinances and resolutions in conflict.
Mayor,
Mr. Gallegos.
I move to approve the adoption of ordinance number 15-1130, declaring the new voting districts as a result of the recent annexation.
Second.
Moved and seconded to adopt ordinance number 15-1130, declaring new voting districts as a result of recent annexations. Any discussion? None will proceed to the votes. In favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Our ordinance is adopted. Item number B is reading and adoption of ordinance number 15-1132, ordering a special election to be held May 9th, 2015. Ordinance number 15-1132 is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Pleasanton, Texas, ordering a special election to be held on May 9th, 2015 for the consideration of the amendments to the Home Rule Charter of the City of Pleasanton, establishing the time and place of the early voting and declaring an emergency.
Mayor,
Mr. Gagos.
I move to approve the adoption of ordinance number 15-1132, ordering a special election to be held on May the 9th, 2015.
Second.
It's moved and seconded to adopt ordinance number 15-1132, ordering a special election to be held on May 9th, 2015. Any discussion? None will proceed to the vote. Those in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Ordinance is adopted. Item number C is reading and adoption of ordinance 15-1133, authorizing a 20-year agreement between the City of Pleasanton and the Pleasanton Chamber of Commerce. Ordinance number 15-1133 is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Pleasanton, Texas, setting duration, terms, and fees for the Cowboy Homecoming and Turn and Burn events sponsored by the Pleasanton Chamber of Commerce to be held at Pleasanton City property, and amending, replacing, and repealing an ordinance and agreements in conflict.
Mayor,
Mr. Gagos.
I move to approve the adoption of ordinance number 15-1133, authorizing a 20-year agreement between the City of Pleasanton and the Pleasanton Chamber of Commerce.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to adopt ordinance number 15-1133, authorizing a 20-year agreement between the City of Pleasanton and the Pleasanton Chamber of Commerce. Any discussion? If none will proceed to the vote. Those in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Ordinance is adopted. Item number D is the first reading of ordinance number 15-1134, prohibiting sex offenders from living or lording where children congregate. Ordinance number 15-1134 is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Pleasanton, Texas, prohibiting sex offenders from living or loitering where children congregate and repealing all ordinances in conflict. Item number 7 is citizens' comments. If you are a citizen of or taxpayer to the City of Pleasanton, you may speak at this time. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes and know that council and staff may not comment. And I do have Ms. Cox and Mr. Byrd. If there's no takers, Mr. Byrd?
I was thinking ladies first. My mama taught me that. Thank you for the opportunity here. Mr. Mayor and Council and Mr. Pearson. I'm here to thank you personally for the work that you all are doing. And, you know, we pray and we ask the Lord to give wisdom to the decisions that are being made. And I'm here to tell you that He is answering those prayers. And we see that down at the park. We see it in the little kids that we can do a lot for, and a lot of them can't do anything for themselves. And we're seeing people that are coming out of a drug culture, coming out of jail, getting involved in some of the tournaments and activities down there. And we're seeing them go into other cities and come back and want to help here. So we're thankful for that. We appreciate it. And we see your men working, Bruce, Johnny, we see your men working down there. When we walked today, there were 3 men down in the Playscape. 2 of them I know, the third one I couldn't see, he is busy underneath. But Frank and Isaiah were there, and they were doing a good job. And you see that going on, and then you go down to the basketball court, and you see 25, 30 kids playing out there, just having a ball, really, no pun intended. And you see parents sitting along the side and just watching their kids involved in an activity that is healthy. And then you go on down to the pavilion, and you see some local citizens involved in unloading equipment they have built for the skate park. And they're out there under the pavilion, and Johnny, I think, getting some lights on for them. But that's the kind of things that we look at and we see, and that's how God answers prayer, because lives are being changed there. And the decisions that you all make have been good decisions. So my prayer, and it's not my invocation, but my prayer is that you all will keep making those kind of decisions that make the kids a priority, because they can't do a lot for themselves, and we can do a lot for them. And we're having a tournament down there, March the 1st, men and women, it's the 1st, and we'd love to see as many of you folks down there. And one of the things that I'm hearing is people care. That's what I'm hearing from people. They're saying people care. Well, you're the people, and we appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burke.
Any other comments? If none, we'll proceed to departmental reports. Agenda item number 8.
Our Public Works Director's report will be followed by a departmental report by Mr. Peterson, our Director of Facilities and Activities, and we'll move to the manager's message, and from that point to the mayor's message, Mayor.
Good evening, Council Mayor.
Evening.
All our water wells at 100%. Our utility department crews are finishing up replacing all the services on Cynthia Drive, and they will then begin on the replacing services on Winship. Our water main project, Fonseca Construction, completed the water line bore at Yellowstone and Highway 476, and has also completed the bore at the railroad crossing that goes towards First Street and Uvalde. They're beginning to set up for the next bore on Highway 281 and Uvalde. Landmark, the water tower contractor, has poured the first 2 concrete sections of the tank pedestal. The height of this pedestal will be approximately 90 feet. Our wastewater plant and utility crews completed the sewer main repairs at the intersection of Goodwin and Bryant. We are waiting for the concrete fill to set up. It's setting up a little slow because of the weather. And then the street department will seal coat and the street coats. So hopefully we can get that lane open by this weekend. The Parks Department continues the ground maintenance to all the public buildings. And then last week I was approached by Mr. Zachary Pettis, an Eagle Scout who asked to complete his Eagle Scout project at our river park. He had reconstructed the existing volleyball court to a beach volleyball court. He was able to gather all the sponsors and volunteers to deliver the sand and pipe used for these court borders and the sand containment. Some of the sponsors were Ray Rodriguez, MG Building Materials, Atascosa Materials, and SB Sand. For the street department, they have repaired the crossing of the drainage culvert on Humboldt Camp Road, and have assisted the utility crews with the repairs to that sewer main on Goodwin and Bryant. For the past few weeks, we have been gathering the estimates for the materials and equipment to be used for the intersection rehab projects that were budgeted for this year. We had estimated the cost for this project using a hot mix laydown machine. The rental estimates received for this machine were at $10,000 a month, plus mobilization to each location. But we have been working on other options. Last week, we were able to find a local contractor who had proposed that we reconstruct the intersections using the required 6 inches of base, and he would then come in with the oil and the lay down the hot mix. The contractor suggested we construct 4 intersections at a time, and we are hopeful for the reconstruction of 10 intersections, maybe 12. We plan to begin this project the first part of March, maybe sooner if weather allows.
Okay.
This completes my item.
Questions, Mr. Weezer? Thank you, Mr. Weezer.
Thank you.
This is the report for the Civic Center. In the first 10 months or so of operation, we've held over 70 events, and this is in the main room primarily. This doesn't include our regularly scheduled meetings like Rotary, the Women's Club, DAR, those meetings, but that's not included in that 70. Those are just regular meetings that we hold. And in the first 2 months of this year, we've already booked, I had on my report 35, but this week we booked 5 or 6, so we're at 40, 41 now already for the first 2 months of this year. That includes 2016 also, but those are bookings we've already done in the first 2 months. So we're moving along at a pretty good clip. Our Zumba class continues. The instructor has the class up to about 35 or 40 people on a regular basis now. It's held every Tuesday and Thursday at 5:45.
That's awesome.
And it's a very enthusiastic group that shows up. We did have a joint presentation by Brad Kingle of Everyday Paranormal from the Discovery Channel in conjunction with the library and Friends of the Library. It went very well. We had about 200, 250 people that attended that. Brad investigated a local building to find out if there was any paranormal activity, and within about 5 minutes, he found out there was. So he is setting up, coming back and doing a full program at that building, which happens to be the museum, so.
Oh, great. Last time I'm going in there.
Where is that at?
The museum.
At the museum.
That's what I thought.
They can go to my shop.
And so we'll find out exactly what's going on at the museum too. And that'll be interesting. At the sports complex, the River Park and the pavilions, now, I don't know if you know, but at the Civic Center, we book all of the park pavilions, all the sports complexes through the Civic Center. And in the first couple of months in January, we collected over $13,000 in rental fees for the sports fields. That includes the agreement that the council agreed with on the baseball country at his $2,000 a month. That includes his also. So that's doing very well now. And there have been really no complaints about the fee structure or how we handle it or anything. Everybody's very pleased with the way it's going, and that the fees are going to maintaining and upgrading the parks and the fields. So it's going very, very well for us. We also installed Encode at the Civic Center. Encode, if you don't know, that's our software system, and that we collect all the fees and record them all and everything. We're able to do that at the Civic Center now. So we'll be picking up probably the library and the museum through the Civic Center, also taking a load off of the girls here at City Hall, which has helped a lot also. That's expedited that. So now people don't have to go over there, book their event, walk across the street, pay their money, and then go back with their receipt to show us that they paid for it. So it's worked out very, very well.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Best.
when do you expect the library will be able to process credit cards?
Well, they'll do it through ours, and as soon as and it's working very smooth for us. As soon as we feel confident enough that ours is working without any bugs or anything, which should be very soon, we'll go ahead and incorporate the library since that's right next door. Okay. So they'll be bringing our stuff over to us, and we'll be able to process there. Of course, the person will have to walk from the library to our office to do the transaction, but it's only a few feet, so sure, it won't be that bad. So we will be able to take credit cards there too, yes.
Other questions?
Mayor,
Ms. Israel.
I'd just like to thank you, Andres, for doing an excellent job with the first year of the Civic Center and with the booking of the parks, with handling all the agreements, monumental task, and people are already seeing the differences, and I certainly hear positive comments about all those things, and I just want to thank you guys. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Other comments? Thank you, Mr. Peterson.
Yeah, thank you.
Move on to item number 9, which is the city manager's message. Evening.
Good to see you, Mr. Sines.
Thank you, sir. Glad to be here.
I'd just like to piggyback on what Ms. Israel and others of you have commented on. This really goes to the whole staff. But where these agreements with the Parks Department are concerned, the council and the mayor's lead have to take all the credit for appointing that ad hoc committee to put people in the room and start discussing this. And who could have known that they would have found they had common ground, a lot of common ground. Obviously, it was a major task for Earl, and I commend him on that, and it shows good skills. I'd also just like to briefly mention, Bob, it's good to see you back.
Thank you. Good to be here.
And Chico, I'm sure glad you're here, one of the most important members of our community. I'll tell you, when we sat down to finalize this contract last week, as it always goes with Chico and I, it's all we can do to not talk about turf as soon as we want to talk about it. And it always gets to talking about turf. And I really enjoy that. Our report this evening first centers on the Kronos project plan that you all approved at the last meeting. We had a project kickoff. I'd like to first commend Helen, our finance director, for taking the lead on this project, and obviously Mrs. Lozano, she's so integral to it. Helen has taken this kind of by the handlebars, if you will, and Helen, I really appreciate that, and I know the staff does and the council as well. Our project kickoff yesterday was about an hour-and-a-half conference call and a go-to meeting with the folks with Kronos. I can tell you that they are interested in this being right. We will take our time to develop this project, and this electronic payroll module and timekeeping system will be tailored to our specific needs. And those specific needs, with a little bit of detail here, in particular, there's different type of labor laws that govern police officers. They have to work 171 hours every 2 weeks before they get overtime. The rest of us in the civilian world work 80. So they are interested in this being tailored and customized. They are so familiar with this type of thing because there's policemen in every municipal and every county agency they deal with. But there are a lot of particulars to us on how we assess holiday pay, when we recognize holidays, and so on and so forth. We did discuss how we would iron out some of the overtime challenges. For instance, if our judge gets called out to go to the county jail on the weekend to magistrate, if our on-call person in Public Works gets called out and it's an absolute emergency where they have to report to the job site, we're going to make those adjustments where their overtime can be entered the very next morning at a personal computer. We're very excited about the project because, as you all saw last meeting, this is going to save the city taxpayers about $130,000 to $170,000 a year. And under a council initiative of 3 years ago, it will extend our existing human resources that much further. When we visited with the department heads today, the sigh of relief about not having to calculate timesheets every Wednesday was heard completely around the room. Weezar being responsible for about 39 people, he's still shaking his head. Next, our employee personnel policy manual. Mayor, we are ready. Mr. Maldonado has assured me in a phone call yesterday he will be through with his review hopefully by the end of the weekend. We hope to have that in the hands of the council to start reviewing early next week. We will ask for you to go ahead and call that work session for around 6:30 on March 4th. The meeting was changed to so we can all attend the chamber banquet the night after. I will tell you, this has been an all-consuming project, much like the other projects this council has directed us to embark on, whereas it would have probably cost the city in the neighborhood of $45,000 to $60,000 to have a consultant do this employee personnel policy manual. We did it in-house. I can't thank Andreas enough, who kicked this thing off with about 4 months of analyzing other employee personnel policy manuals himself and putting the initial draft together. We have edited the initial draft, I think, now 5 or 6 times. Committee members are studying and rereading their chapters they're responsible for presenting at that 6:30 meeting one more time. We continue to meet every Tuesday. Right now, we feel like we have around $12,000 in staff time invested in this manual, and this manual will have exactly what we want, not what the consultant would put in it. There are 3 provisions this manual was put together under. Our latest manual was adopted, I think, in 1988. There have been some amendments to it since, but the first provision this manual addressed was to bring ourselves up to date with what's the standards in the municipal community and other local governments while addressing new laws and regulations that we have to operate by. The second provision was to provide the best benefit for and to the employees. And the third provision was to hold us more accountable to our citizens, the council, and ourselves. And we feel like we have examined every part of that manual in the what-if worst-case scenario. What if this happens? That's how we judged ourselves on anything we put in this manual. When you all have it in your hands or on your iPads here in the next few days, you will notice that there will be 3 parts of this manual. Some of it will be in black, which is parts of the old manual. Some of it will be in red as things that you want in the new manual. And the things in the old manual that were erased in favor of things in the new manual will be in red with a line through it. Now, some of it is merely wordsmithing, categorizing things a little different. But I think you all find it a good read of only 46 pages. Probably 30 minutes. Our last item this evening, Mayor, is our fire station feasibility study. The Chief and I, Chief Garris, have gone through 4 programming sessions with the consultant. The latest one was yesterday. We're centering on a floor plan now that we feel like is adequate to take us well into the future. Right now, they are actually working on quantified renderings to show us what they think it should look like on the outside so we can all see, touch, and feel it. We hope in the next month to 6 weeks to have a work session called to present this to you all, where the consultant will discuss the integral parts of that fire station, and we hope to get direction from the council to move forward with the next steps of the process, and that would be a procurement method for a general contractor and bringing back a guaranteed maximum price to the council. As you may recall, we've used the construction manager at risk method across the street with the library and the civic center several years ago, and this is where you bring a general contractor on board at the time the design documents begin to be put together by the consultant, so they can cost the project all the way through the design phase and construction document phase, so we can have a guaranteed maximum price to present to the council. We're very excited about it. The placement of the fire station will guarantee almost every citizen and every business in this town is in the prescribed 1.5 mile distance from a fire station, which goes to the ISO recommendation at the state level, which directly ties it to homeowners' insurance premium. And we're very happy about it right now. Everything is running along very smoothly, and we're very excited to bring this to a conclusion in the first phase and bring to council. Mayor, I'll stand for any questions.
Questions for Mr. Pearson? Thank you, Mr. Pearson.
Thank you.
Item number 10 is mayor's message and announcements. Just a reminder, and I'm going to have to start coordinating with Mr. Pearson because probably 90% of the time when I have something, he mentions it in the mayor's message. I mean, the city manager's message, but I think this one will emphasize a little more. Just remember, our next council meeting is on the 4th of March. Due to the fact the Chamber Awards Banquet is on the 5th. So I heard the keynote speaker is a riveting speaker and you should attend. Item number 11 is discussion action to request Republic Services to provide waste containers and waste hauling for Turn and Burn and Cowboy Homecoming events 2015. Our Facilities and Activities Director.
Busy night tonight. Yes, we're requesting that you take action and allowing the city to provide the waste containers for Cowboy Homecoming and Turn and Burn events as provided in the agreement with Republic Services. They'll just be placed out there at no expense to the chamber because of the agreement states that they'll do 2 events, and
Okay.
we'd like those events to be the Turn and Burn and the Cowboy Homecoming.
Mayor,
Mr. Gagos.
I move to approve the request that public services to provide the waste containers and the waste hauling for the Turn and Burn and the Cowboy Homecoming events in 2015.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the request for Public Services to provide waste containers and waste hauling for Turn and Burn and Cowboy Homecoming events in 2015. Any discussion? None will proceed to the vote. Those in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Peterson.
Thank you.
Item number 12 is discussion action on approval of continuation of interlocal agreement with Pleasanton Independent School District regarding joint polling places on the May 9th, 2015 election. Our city secretary, Mr. Abbasi.
Yes, sir.
I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
Mayor,
Mr. Gagos.
I move to approve of the continuation of the interlocal agreement with the Pleasanton Independent School District regarding the joint polling place for the May 9th, 2015 election.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the continuation of the interlocal agreement with the Pleasant Independent School District regarding joint polling places on the May 9th, 2015 election. Any discussion? None will proceed to the vote. Those in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 13 is discussion action direct to city staff to conduct a programming and feasibility study for the expansion of the Longhorn Museum to include building space, parking, and drainage. Ms. Israel, or Councilmember Israel,
Yes, I'd like to make a motion.
please.
I'd like to make a motion to direct the city manager and staff to use existing hotel motel funds to add 10 to 15 feet as feasible to the east end of the museum to allow for an exhibit space dedicated to special events and art shows, traveling exhibits, and include parking and drainage.
Second.
And Mayor,
That's,
here you are, sir. You can pass that down to Cindy.
thank you. It has been approved, or moved and seconded to direct the city manager to use existing hotel motel funds to add 10 to 15 feet as feasible to the east end of the museum to allow for an exhibit space dedicated to special events and art shows and traveling exhibits and include parking and drainage. Before I call for any discussion, Mr. Maldonado, I always like to use you when you're here. Is that motion too far off from the way the agenda item is written?
Can you repeat it for me, please?
Sure. It's direct the city manager and staff to use the existing hotel motel funds to add 10 to 15 feet as feasible to the east end of the museum to allow for an exhibit space dedicated to special events and art shows and traveling exhibits and include parking and drainage.
Which agenda? Which one?
It's item number 13.
I'm sorry, Mayor, I wasn't, can you repeat it for me,
Sure,
please?
I don't mind. To direct the city manager and staff to use existing hotel occupancy tax funds to add 10 to 15 feet as feasible to the east end of the museum to allow for an exhibit space dedicated to special events and art shows and traveling exhibits and include parking and drainage.
What I was trying to do is correlate the motion to the agenda item, and I don't see a whole lot of overlap there.
But that's why I'm asking you.
Mayor?
Ms. Israel.
I truly never discussed programming to begin with, and so that was why I eliminated anything to do with the programming. I can, if it is possible for me to, that has had a second already to it, so
It's not a motion till I acknowledge it as one, so it can be moved and seconded, but
I think I could probably shrink it, or I could, instead of make a motion, let me see, I may
Mayor, I
have,
have a question.
Ms. Israel's got
make
the
it-
floor.
What's wrong with the motion?
It doesn't overlap what the agenda item is. We have to stick to what's on the agenda or the
Well,
business.
the
isn't-
expansion, she said 10 feet.
I just asked our city attorney who has agreed that it does not, there's not enough overlap between the two to make it a valid motion.
Mayor,
Ms. Israel.
I'm going to make a motion to postpone this agenda item until March the 4th.
Second.
It's moved and seconded to postpone agenda item until March the 4th. Any discussion? None will proceed to the vote. Those in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion is postponed. Or item is postponed. Item number 14, discussion action on securing the location for the Longhorn Museum to remain at 1959 Highway 97 East for the remainder of the 99-year lease with Atascosa County. Ms. Israel.
Yes, Mayor, I make a motion
Yes, ma'am.
to secure the location of the Longhorn Museum to remain at 1959 Highway 97 East for the remainder of the 99-year lease with Atascosa County.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to secure the location for Longhorn Museum to remain at 1959 Highway 97 East for the remainder of the 99-year lease with Atascosa County. Any discussion?
Mayor?
Ms. Israel.
Yes, I'd just like to make a couple of comments. Our lease that we have with the county for the 99 years, I believe is $1 a year for that lease. So I think that's a very cost-effective lease to have and maintain. And I also believe that that location is an excellent location for the entrance to the east side of the city. And my comment.
I have a question, Mayor.
Mr. Gagos.
Jenny, how many years are remaining on this lease?
I
I mean, where are we at in the lease?
I think we have 20 years or 25 years into it, so we still have a long time on that lease.
Thank you.
2,079.
I won't be here. I could be a ghost in the museum.
We might be in that museum.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Sines, we're gonna be having lunch somewhere then.
She'll be crawling around. I'll be here.
I'm sure you will.
I guarantee I'll be
There'll
here.
be a plaque somewhere,
Any
Ibrahim.
other discussion? If not, we'll proceed to the vote. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 15 is discussion action to direct city staff to complete the design for the Grant Street reconstruction and include it as part of Phase 1 or Phase 2 of the Pleasanton Master Plan to 2025 thoroughfare section street CIP. Councilmember Israel,
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion.
please.
I'd like to make a motion to direct the city staff to complete the design for Grant Street reconstruction and include it as part of Phase 1 or Phase 2 of the Pleasanton Master Plan 2025 thoroughfare section, street CIP, and when it is complete, to remove the gate.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to direct city staff to complete the design for Grant Street reconstruction and include it as part of Phase 1 or 2 or Phase 2 of the Pleasanton Master Plan 2025 thoroughfare section street CIP, and when completed, to remove the gate. Any discussion?
I'd like to ask a question.
Mr. Sines?
Well, I'm directing myself to the council lady here, Ms.
Yes, sir.
Israel.
Yes, sir.
You represent that border on
Yes,
Grant
sir.
Street. Okay.
Yes, sir.
That's all.
Mayor, I have a question.
Mr. Gagos?
So Gigi, if I'm understanding and looking at that plus
Thank
what
you.
we have here, this kind of starts there at the, as I guess the old junior high, middle school, whatever it's called now, that will go down Laredo and then come through Williamsburg out to Goodwin. Is that what that is representing there?
The idea of that would be, as part of the thoroughfare plan, when it is completed, would to be having a exit from the landlocked area around the primary and high school and so forth and those fields, and it would come out, as you said, from Jolly Street to Grant. Then Grant would come straight down, makes that L, and exits out off onto Stonehaven, and then Stonehaven to Colony, and then out from Colony to Goodwin. And that would be, but that's just a portion of it. So that would be part of the exit.
Mayor, if I may?
Please, you have.
Is there any other alternative to this? Because I can see where there's going to be a lot of traffic in the subdivisions with people trying to cut across from the school area to get back out to Goodwin
Well,
through those neighborhoods. And I know
hopefully
we all
that-
have
yes.
traffic, but that will increase that traffic extremely in that area.
Mayor, may I
Please.
respond? Hopefully, you're looking at one portion of an overview that, some time ago, actually, the council, we all had a chance to look at what we hope to be a complete thoroughfare. This is one leg of it, and I would think, you're looking to get to this portion of it probably 2 years. And I think that's a fair assessment. It could be even a little longer. And I think you'll see that the thoroughfare plan is going to increase during that period of time. So what I wanted to make sure was that something like this would be in place. It's been 8 years since the discussion began. There was never a street there to begin with. And if, in fact, the school bond should pass in May, we don't want to wait until that point in time to address this. It would be better to address it now. It's a street that needs to already be taken care of. And at that point in time, if the bond passes, we'll already have something in place that the bond can show that would support that area along with the other thoroughfares. So that's why I'm supporting it. I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you, Jenny.
Yeah, no problem.
Other comments? Mr. Pearson, I don't remember, was this considered in phase 1 or phase 2 already?
We had envisioned it to be a part of phase 2. We don't know if we'll have any leftover funds or not in phase 1. We've had a preliminary cost estimate by the engineer on it. We deemed High Meadow to be a higher priority in phase 1 as far as the existing school traffic that's already there. But Grant Street is a part of the master plan, and we had envisioned it as a part of phase 2.
Well, the motion falls in line with that, so.
Yes, sir.
All right, any other discussion? If none, we'll proceed to the vote. Those in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 16 is discussion action, direct city staff to amend the Pleasanton Master Plan 2025 thoroughfare section, street CIP to remove Sunrise Drive and add Masad Drive. Councilmember Israel,
Yes, I'd like to go ahead and make that motion.
please.
I'd like to move to direct the city staff to amend the Pleasanton Master Plan 2025 thoroughfare section, street CIP, to remove Sunrise Drive and add Masad Drive.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, direct the city staff to amend the Pleasanton Master Plan 2025 thoroughfare section, street CIP to remove Sunrise Drive and add Masad Drive. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Pacifica?
I'd just like to thank Mr. Pearson for catching that and realizing that Sunrise is in a much better shape than Masad is, and I'm sure the citizens of that area will be looking forward to that. Thank you.
Other discussion? If not, we'll proceed to the vote. Those in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 17 is discussion action concerning the rehabilitation of intersections identified this fiscal year and also provide a timeline. Councilmember Israel.
Mayor, I just wanted to make a comment and that's going to be it, because I believe Mr. Weezar pretty much outlined everything when he was speaking earlier, and that they were going to start in March and what they hoped the timeline was and how many intersections were involved. And with that, I'm done with that item, so I'll dismiss it.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to dismiss agenda item number 17. Any discussion? If not, we'll proceed to the vote. Those in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion, or item is dismissed. Item number 18 is discussion and action to direct the city staff to perform a study for the acquisition of land and develop an additional right-of-way for Williamsburg, Jamestown subdivisions to Goodwin, and provide a report to the city council for the possible acquisition and development of a right-of-way.
Mayor?
Councilmember Israel.
Yes, I'd like to go ahead and make that motion. I'd like to make a motion to direct the city staff to perform a study for the acquisition of land to develop an additional right-of-way for the Williamsburg, Jamestown subdivisions to Goodwin, and provide a report to the city council for the possible acquisition and development of the right-of-way.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to direct city staff to perform a study for the acquisition of land and develop an additional right-of-way for the Williamsburg, Jamestown subdivisions to Goodwin, and provide a report for the city council for the possible acquisition and development of a right-of-way. Any discussion?
Mayor?
Ms. Israel.
Yes, since Mr. Gallegos asked earlier about the thoroughfare plan, this will be a possible another leg of it. And I'm sorry that it didn't, this particular drawing, I asked for it late, so it's my fault. But when you come down to Stonehaven, I don't know what to call that right there, but Oak Ridge, I guess, still in the extension of Oak Ridge. But when you come down off of Colony and you intersect to get out by the gate, by Gateway Church, that street goes far, it goes west and it dead ends pretty much right there at Yorktown. And what we'd like to see is an exit from Yorktown at the end of that street, if that is what is possible, straight to Goodwin, which would give another exit out from Williamsburg, and it would allow those two streets almost complete access to an exit out. So as traffic comes through in that section of the thoroughfare, you have an additional exit out of there. And depending on what develops through the staff looking into this, they will be also looking at the possibility of an exit out of Stonehaven to the west that would run at the edge of Williamsburg and take all those streets straight out to Goodwin. So it would be the very west end of that subdivision, if in fact something comes up like that, and then they would bring it to council, and then there would be further discussion about it. But we could see where we could possibly provide a landlocked area the ability to access Goodwin in more than one way and diversify the traffic that may be coming. Now, this isn't part of the agenda item, but there's other portions of that thoroughfare plan that won't put the weight all in this area. This is just the first part of that plan that the council is having a chance to look at.
I have a question there.
Mr. Gagos.
So how would this tie into another exit, or is this part of the study that they have another way out of Jamestown that will go through Stonehaven and all of that back to Goodwin? Is that part of this?
Well, part of this would be the fact that Jamestown at some time in the near future will be what it was platted to be, which is a gated subdivision without a gate. But it was supposed to only have one way out to Pulliam to begin with. And now the back part of the streets that are Stonehaven.
But Stonehaven is part of Williamsburg, is that correct?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Stonehaven is part of Williamsburg, not Jamestown.
So it's the possibility that Jamestown, they won't have an exit coming out into
They
Williamsburg.
weren't platted to be that way. That's been a long discussion,
Okay.
as we looked at, yes, as we looked at possible thoroughfares 3 years ago. We had a discussion with the developer of Jamestown, specifically about that. And so what it would be providing would be a second exit to Williamsburg, and it would also be providing the traffic to diversify as it left Grant Street. So you wouldn't have everybody coming out the same way.
Other questions, Mr. Gagos?
No, sir, thank you, Mayor.
Any other questions? None will proceed to the vote. Those in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Is that 2, 3? Motion carries. Item number 19 is appointment of one Housing Authority Commissioner. That's my appointment, and Mr. Warnkin has been elected to the school board and wanted to devote, or didn't think he could devote 100% to it. So Miss Julia Garcia, and I can get you contact information later, has accepted the appointment. She is the Coastal Bend College Facility Director for Pleasanton. Item number 20, the regular session of City Council, February 19th, 2015, is hereby recessed to pursue an executive session pursuant of Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code, Subchapter D, as it pertains to real estate 551.072 and consultation with an attorney 551.071. Executive sessions may be discussed in open session if appropriate. The time is 7:49. The regular session, February 19th, 2015, is hereby reconvened. The time is 8:14 p.m. Agenda item number 23 is discussion and possible action concerning the purchase of leased property at the airport.
Mayor,
Mr. Gagos.
I move to dismiss agenda item number 23.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to dismiss agenda item number 23. Any discussion? None. We'll proceed to the vote. Those in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Agenda item is dismissed. Item number 24 is discussion and possible action concerning leased property at the airport.
Mayor?
Ms. Israel,
Yes, I'd like to make a motion.
please.
I'd like to give to direct the city staff and city attorney to re-examine the lease itself and the property the airport property existing leases, and to discuss with Garver a possible contract for an airport layout study.
Second.
I'm gonna give this a shot.
Please do. You're not going to like how I wrote it down.
It has been moved and seconded to direct the city staff and city attorney to re-examine the leases and the lease property with existing leases and discuss with Garver on a possible airport layout study. Any discussion? Mr. Garza.
Oh, we
Now proceed to the vote. Those in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 25, review of the bills. Ms. Israel.
No, sir.
Mr. Science.
No, sir.
Mr. Best.
No, sir.
Mr. Garza.
No, sir.
Ms. Pacifica.
No, sir.
Mr. Gagos.
No, sir.
Item number 26.
Adjourn.
Second.
Moving second, we adjourn. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Meeting is adjourned at 8:16 PM.